boys and girls. Welcome to the new week of Monday, May 11. And the first thing I certainly want you to take notice of before we get started on our slides for today's activity is that alongside of this screen, you will see some of your classmates' names who are celebrating birthdays this month of May. So we certainly want to wish Anna and Junior and Sam and Lila and Jordan and Landon birthday wishes for the month of May. What a great way to get started today. Also, another great way to get started today would be with something brand new. We're going to be taking a look at, for the first time this year, dividing 2 or 3-digit numbers by a 1-digit number without remainders at this point. So you may have some experience in doing some dividing, but I certainly hope today's activity will challenge you, and that's something I want to remind you about as you're working today. If the activity begins to challenge you where you feel a little bit frustrated or you're just getting a little bit anxious, then just pause the video, stop, take 2 or 3 big deep breaths, and then come back to the video and watch it again. Sometimes watching something even a second time or maybe even a third time will help you and give you more time to better understand what we're going to be working on today. So I will tell you that the first strategy is actually a strategy that you have used before this year as 4th graders, making a ratio table. So I have set up a problem today using a 2-digit number. And in division, a couple of things we need to talk about before we start actually creating the ratio table is that in division, we have certain numbers that are very important, and we need to talk a little bit about them and how you will use them when dividing numbers. So the first number I'm going to talk about in the problem today, Miss Coates has 57 marbles that she would like to put into equal groups of 3, is the number 57. 57 in this division problem is called the dividend. And we usually see dividends that are larger than any other number in our division problem because that's the number that we're going to be putting into groups. The second number in the problem that I've highlighted, which is 3, is called a divisor. And that number tells us how many equal groups we're going to be dividing our marbles into. We want to try to divide these 57 marbles into 3 equal groups. Now eventually when we get our answer in division, we call that, of course, a quotient. And that answer, let's make that a little bit neater. That answer for today will not have remainders. Sometimes, as you know, when you're dividing numbers, you may have remainders. But for today, we're just going to work with whole numbers with no remainders. So let's get started. Again, our problem today is Miss Coates has 57 marbles, and she would like to put them into equal groups of 3. So when I begin working on my ratio table, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with kind of the first amount that I might want to divide my marbles. So I know that one group of 3 would obviously be 3. And then it might seem logical just to double that. 2 groups of 3 would be 6. But if I keep doing that just one group at a time, it's going to take me quite a while. So in order to maybe allow my thinking to be a little bit more efficient, I'm going to take 10 groups of 3. I know that 10 groups of 3 is 30. So now when I have 30, I'm getting a little bit closer to the number of marbles that I have. I have 57. So I'm going to come over here. Take a look at what I'm highlighting around in this box. And I'm actually going to take the 30 out of the 57 and see what I have left. I have 27 left. Well, I know that 27 is a multiple of 3. And I also know that 9 groups of 3 makes 27. So if I put those 30 and 27 together, remember where those numbers came from. Your 30 came from 10 groups of 3, and your 27 just came from 9 groups of 3. If I put the 30 and the 27 together, I have all 57 of my marbles. And if I look above those 2 numbers in my ratio table, the 10 groups of 3 and the 9 groups of 3, and I put those together, I come up with 19. So now I know that the quotient, or the answer to this problem, if I were to try to divide 57 marbles into 3 equal groups, would be 19. My quotient for this problem would be 19. And that, again, should be a little bit of a review strategy. And that might be one that you want to start with today, just to practice. The next strategy that we're going to look at is called making a labeled sketch. Now, again, you have used this strategy before, but possibly not in division yet. So we're going to take the same problem. Miss Coates has 136 marbles and she would like to put them into groups of 8. And I'm going to begin, again, using a little bit more maybe of efficient learning. I'm going to put, instead of just taking one marble at a time and putting them into each of these circled areas in my labeled sketch, let's take 10. Let's take 10 marbles, and I'm going to put those 10 marbles into each of my groups. So I'm going to take 10 here. It's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Well, 80 is still quite a ways from 136. And I also know that if I was to try to repeat that and do that again and put another group of 10 marbles in each of the bags, that I would be well over 136. So let's take half of that amount. Let's take 5, and let's put 5 marbles in each bag. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So again, let's review what we just did. Out of 136 marbles, I'm going to start with these 10. And the total for those 10 would be 80. I'm still quite a ways from 136. So let's take 5 groups of 8, which is 40. Now if I put those together, I have 120. How far away is 120 from 36? I'm getting 136, excuse me. I'm getting pretty close. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take one marble at a time and I'm going to put them into the bags until I get up to 136. So remember, where are we so far? We're at 120. So I'll do 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128. I'm getting closer. 129, 130, 131, 132, 133, 134, 135, 136. I'm exactly where I need to be. And let's look and see how many marbles are in each of those bags. So I'm just going to take this bag right here. So if I add up those marbles that are in that bag together, just this bag, I'm just going to start with this one first. I should be able to see that I have 10, 15, 16, 17 marbles. Don't confuse those two, these right here. Okay, that's not an 11. Remember, those were 2 tally marks, so just be careful that you don't add 10, 15, and 11. It's actually 10 plus 5 plus 2. So you want to make sure that you have that answer there correctly. So that would be the second strategy, making a labeled sketch. And you might want to try that strategy after you've practiced your ratio table. Another strategy today that we're going to look at is called using multiples. And I'm going to combine that with yet another strategy called using multiplication, since you're going to see that these are quite similar. So let's look at the same problem again. Miss Coates has 136 marbles and would like to put them into equal groups of 8. So using multiples, and again, you have all worked on multiples this year and done very well. So instead of just starting with 8, the first multiple of 8, let's use some smart thinking and let's do our 10th multiple of 8, which would be 80. Okay, so that's our 10th multiple. Our 11th multiple would be 88. Our 12th multiple would be 96. Again, we're just counting up each time, 8 more. I'm adding 8 more. So if I'm at 96 and I add 8 more, I get to 104. That's my 13th multiple. 112 would be my 14th multiple. 120 would be my 15th multiple. 128 would be my 16th multiple, and 136 would be my 17th multiple. So again, 17 would be my quotient or my answer. 17 equal groups of 8 would fit into 136 if I was trying to divide out those marbles. So again, if you like this strategy, using multiples, you can try that as well. And this one is very similar to the next strategy, which is just using multiplication. So it's kind of building on knowing what you already do about your multiplication facts. So you already know that 8 times 8 is 64. Again, remember, we're putting things into groups of 8, so that's why 8 is such an important number here. If I double that and just do another repeat, okay, and just do another group or double 8 again, that would be 64 more. Now 64 and 64, again, I'm getting kind of close. Here I am, I'm at 128. So I'm just going to add one more group of 8, which would be 8. And if I put all of those together, that will give me 136. And I'm going to look right here. 8, 8, and 1. So 8 plus 8 plus 1 more gives me 17. Again, I'm just trying to make sure each time I use these different strategies, I come up with the same quotient, the same answer. So again, these two strategies are similar, using multiples or using multiplication. And again, it just gives you some choices on something either maybe new you want to try, or if you feel more comfortable using one of these strategies rather than the others, you can try these today. And last but not least, okay, this is a brand new strategy. So if you are really up for a challenge today, you might want to try what's called the Big 7. A friend of mine had this strategy and shared it with me, and I thought it was pretty cool, and I wanted to certainly share it with you and allow you to give it a try. So you're going to notice that when you set up a division problem, and most of you have probably done that before, there's a certain type of formation that you use. I'm going to highlight this. It kind of looks like this when you start dividing, but because this is called Big 7, kind of draw a little bit longer line so that it looks a little bit like the number 7. So we're going to call this strategy Big 7. All right, so for this strategy then, we are going to take our numbers in our problem, again, which are 136, and we're going to divide it by 8. So you probably recognize a division problem looking something like that. Okay, so again, going back to what I already know, I have to take and find out how many groups of 8 are in 136. So I'm going to take out 10 groups of 8 because I know that 10 groups of 8 is 80. So I'm going to take those 10 groups of 8 out of the 136, and when I subtract, showing my work, I'm left with 56. Now, there might be a few of you already saying, well, I know how many 8s go into 56, so I could figure that out, but let's just take a little bit smaller group. Let's just take 5 groups of 8. So if I take 5 groups of 8, I know that 5 groups of 8, 5 groups of 8 is equal to 40. So I'm going to put 5 over here, and I'm going to take out those 40, and let's see what's left. Okay, what's left is 16. Now, I can figure this out. How many groups of 8 fit into 16? I know that there are 2 groups of 8 that would fit into 16. So if I take those 16 out, of course, I'm left with 0. I don't have any left. And look again over here at what's at the side. If I add these together, 10 plus 5 plus 2, that would give me an answer. My quotient would be 17. And in this type of the Big 7 problem, you put your 17 up on top. So boys and girls, today when you do your student book page activities, and I'm only assigning you 2 problems to do today, I'd like for you to review all of the strategies, and I would like you to pick one of the strategies to start with today that you think you might feel most comfortable with. If you're really feeling pretty comfortable with one of the strategies once you've done both problems today, then challenge yourself and go to try another strategy. Maybe that you could check to see that you're getting the same answer twice, or again, maybe just to challenge you into trying something you haven't done before. I will put the answer key, of course, for both problems today that you're going to be doing from your student book on page 248. We're going to be doing problems 1 and 2, and I will put the answer key with that so that you can check your own work when you're done. I look forward to meeting with you in some small groups this week. Certainly, if you need any extra help or just want to check in with me, you can always email me, and I will get back with you right away to set up a Zoom meeting together. Boys and girls, have a great Monday.